Hello everybody, Harvester here again with another video on how to make maps for Balsa Model Flight Simulator. This is the second video in the series, and this time we're going to look at how to add locations and fast travel destinations to the map. Before anything else though, you're going to want to make sure that you're on the latest version of the Balsa.SDK. So for that, come up here to Tools, Floating Origin Interactive, and choose Balsa Asset Bundle Tools and check the footer here. And make sure you're on version 0.8. So this version was released today, and it should be available now on GitHub. And it contains tools that we're going to use in this video, so make sure that's the one you've got. So today we are going to add fast travel destinations to our map, and we're also going to add the map image itself. So I'm going to show you the tools that we're going to use for that and how to put together the structures that you're going to need to specify where those locations are and to also generate the map image. So let's go. So let's start off by creating the map image for our map. To do that, we're going to have to use a new tool that is here in Tools, Floating Util, Auto Map Image Generator. So click that and you're going to get this dialog. Let's leave it off to the side here. And once you open this dialog, you're going to see, if you zoom out the camera a bit, this grid. And this grid is going to help you line up the framing of your map image. So to make things easier, we can come here and disable our fog, then switch to isometric view and click the y-axis to align the view vertically. So that gives us a much better perspective on what we're doing. Now on the mapper tool, the first thing we want to do is to define the image output path. So this is where the image is going to be saved once we generate it. So all we need to do here is to just browse to point this at our mod folder that we've been putting everything in, because we're going to probably load the image from here anyway later. So this is just a convenient place to put it. So once we assign that, the auto mapper is no longer giving us a warning, and we can continue setting it up. So next step is the image name. So this is the file name that the image will be saved with, and we can just leave this as map image for now. This is the image size in pixels, and this is our image resolution. So we want this to be for a mid-size map like this, probably somewhere in the 3072 pixel resolution. All of these images are square. Now here comes the important part. The map area size parameter controls the size of the map image that we're actually collecting from our map. So in this case, our terrain here, the accessible area at least, is 1500 units. So we're going to type that in, and you can see now that our square fully encompasses the terrain area that isn't the distant scenery we can't actually get to. If we needed to, you could also set an offset here and move this up and down, left and right as needed. In our case, we don't need to because this map is nicely centered, so we can leave it at 0. So now let's go back here to perspective view, and you can see that this grid is placed above the terrain to some extent. And this is where the camera that will be taking, will be capturing these images is going to be placed at. So we want to make sure that the camera height is high enough that it can capture all of our terrain without intersecting. So this is actually more important for steep maps where you have very large vertical cliff faces. You just want to make sure that the camera height and the tile size are set up correctly so that imagine that on each one of these squares the camera is taking a picture. You want to make sure that in none of these you will end up with something like the terrain clipping the plane of the camera at some point. So for us here, this is a fairly flat map. 100 is quite okay. And now finally the tile size controls how many tiles are going to make up this high resolution image that we are generating. So at 100, we see that each one of these squares is about 100 units on a side, and we can change this and you get fewer or more tiles with different resolutions. And basically for this, you just want to make sure that you have enough tiles that the frame of the camera is not too large that you would start to get like low levels of details on things. For instance, the trees here, to make sure that they draw with their best resolution, we want to make sure that the tile size is fairly small so the levels of detail resolve to the highest possible LOD. The trade-off here, of course, is in processing time. The more tiles you have, the longer it's going to take to complete rendering the map. So for now, we can leave this at 100, which will give us 15 by 15 tiles. So I've ended up changing the tile size here to 128 because in some cases like this, powers of 2 that are integer ratios with the image size work better. If you get things like a gray border around the image or something, just try playing around with the tile size and try to get these tile resolution values like to as round a value as you can. But then next, all you need to do is hit render. We'll see here that a mapper camera appears and quickly disappears. And if we hit explore here and bring up our output folder, you'll see that there is now a map image PNG file saved here. And this is our rendered map. And it is fairly high resolution. You can see the details in every single tree. You can see the river in like high detail. And that's pretty much all you need to do to generate your image file for the map. So now finally, the last thing to do is to configure our map image in the mod.cfg file so that the game knows how to draw this map. So for that, the AutoMapper tool already gives us the mod.cfg data, and we can just copy this from this text field. And now if we come out here on our airfield mod.cfg file, we can simply paste those values inside the scenery node. Just remember to replace your mod folder here with the path of your mod, which in our case is simply airfield mod, same as above, and save. And that's our image file correctly configured. And we don't even need to rebuild the map now. We can simply open the game. And once it's done loading, we should already be able to see the map image. So once you're in the game, just hold down M and you should see our map we just created appear on the map screen. Next, let's look at how we can create locations and fast travel destinations in our map. So you can go ahead and close the AutoMapper. We won't need that anymore. And come back here to the play area. And the way map nodes like fast travel destinations work is that we have locations, which are objects that contain other map nodes within them. And fast travel destinations are one of those kinds of objects that we can put inside locations. So just like the menu viewpoints and the spawn locations, we want to start off by creating an empty object. Let's call these our map nodes. And again, make sure that they are parented to the airfield here so that they will float with the scene origin. And inside these, you want to create our locations. So for the first location, let's call this one, say, parking lot. And we're going to drop this at the parking lot area. And make sure this is parented to the map nodes object. And to this, we want to attach the SCN map location script. So you can see that this script has a radius component to it, and this basically just lets us adjust a suggested size for this location. It doesn't actually have any function in the game yet, and we want to position this around here where the parking lot is. So first, let's reset the position of this object, and then let's drag the parking lot to this area. Then we can adjust the radius if you want to more or less encompass the area that is the parking lot. And for us, we want it to be more or less like so. So that's that. So then to create the fast travel destination, we once again create a new empty game object. Let's call this one just fast travel. And to this one, we want to attach the SCN fast travel node marker. There we go. And now if you come here closer, you can see that this one has a little bit of a gizmo. And we can select here in the inspector which kind of fast travel vehicle this is. So do we want to use the Veeraway Rover, which is the Jeep, or other vehicles that we have for other maps? So each fast travel destination can actually have its own vehicle type, whatever makes the most sense in your use case. So now once you select the prefab, you're going to see that this orange marker here is now off to the side. And this here indicates the arrival destination of the player. So the box represents where the vehicle will be. And so you can get an idea of its approximate size. And the orange marker shows where the player will be when you arrive at this destination. So let's place this here, maybe under this tree would be, I guess, a good place to park. And you can see that the player here is already situated so that it's just off of the left side where the driver door is. So that makes sense. So we can keep it like that. So next, let's add a couple more fast travel points. And the easiest way to do that is to just copy this one and then move it around as needed. So we're going to copy this one. Let's change this name to maybe a control tower. And this will be the location for the control tower area, which is out here. Just as before, just the location, adjust the radius a little bit. And let's move our fast travel destination here so that it's in a convenient place. That makes sense, as if we had parked there. So lastly, let's add just one more. This one we'll call hangars. And we're going to drop this one out here where the hangars are. And same thing for the fast travel. We just move this maybe out here. Make sure that it's nicely aligned. And if you want, you can play around with the player position and rotation as well. So you can see by changing these values, we're adjusting where the player is and what the orientation is when you leave the car. So that's it. So that's all you need to do to configure locations and fast travel destinations. Next, we just save. And now to actually get this into the game, we need to export this data of the map nodes into a format the game will understand. And this data, even though it's saved here in the scene with these node objects, this is not how the game will read them. This is just for us so that we can easily place them. What we need to do now is export this to the CFG format that the game uses for these map nodes. And that's pretty simple because we've added a new tool for that. It's up here in floating util map nodes export. And once you have your map nodes in the scene, all you have to do is click here and the game will ask for you to select a file to save this data into. And we can actually just select our airfield mod CFG file, which is the same file we've been using to configure the scene. So now we can just select this and save on top of it. And yes, we want to override it. And now if we come out here to our airfield mod, it will say that the file has been modified. And if we reload it, you can see that now our original information is still here, but it's actually added this new map nodes section with each one of the locations and fast travel nodes that we added. And this is all the information that the game needs. So you don't need to laboriously type in these values. The tool has generated them for us. And if you want to make any changes here, all you need to do is run the tool again and re-export. And the fun thing is you don't even need to rebuild the map because all of this is happening with just data. We can leave the scene as is. And if we test it out, you will see that the map nodes should be there already. And you can now see that we've got our map markers in the locations that we selected, and we can now travel to them. And there we go. This is how you get fast travel destinations into the game. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. Stay tuned for the next videos where we're going to have a look at how to configure ocean water and also how to get build tents and other map props into your scenery. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Cheers.